I began going on outings to the zoo, the park, shopping with Debbie, the older sister of my mother's ex-boyfriend, the rock climber. She taught ESL, worked at the cosmetics counter at Macy's in downtown San Francisco, and cleaned house for a bachelor in a nearby town called Atherton. Atherton. Debbie was around 30, like my mother, but without children, she'd offered to take me on outings inspired by an older girl who had once taken an interest in her when she was young and had difficulties at home, showing her how to apply makeup and wear perfume and accessories. My mother and I waited for her near the road on the appointed day. When she got out of the car, she was wearing light pink jeans, white high-heeled mules, a red top with a ruffle, multiple Bakelite bracelets, clacked against one another when she moved. She wore large hoop earrings and a patterned scarf. She was like a tropical bird in a realm of browns. She drove a red Ford Fiesta stick shift and exuded a blithe optimism that seemed like a high calling, a layer of light that made everything else irrelevant. I was being introduced to the good life. Around her was a haze of scent, the orange blossoms and pleasing chemicals. Her hair was short and coiffured. The color and form gave the impression of soft waves breaking around her head, even though, when I touched it, I was surprised to feel a crust. Hairspray, she said. I hope to use hairspray too, when I was older. On the drives to and from Macy's, the Rincon de Pool, the zoo, or her house on El Camino, or on Alameda de las Pligas, or Highway 280. She would talk about finding the Skyway, a road that she said ran way up above us, above the ground, in the clouds. If only we could find it, she said. There's an on-ramp somewhere around here. We both looked for the on-ramp, though I wasn't sure what such a ramp would look like. Darn, she'd eventually say. I must have missed it. Sometimes they close it. Next time. The year before, Debbie had been living abroad in Italy with family in a house on the Adirondack coast, and she'd thought she might stay forever, but her mother flew over and brought her back. Now she was taking the first difficult steps to create a life. I didn't know any of this at the time, only that she seemed unencumbered, a miraculous departure from adult seriousness, delightfully unreal, like the Skyway. I looked forward to our outings all week, and chose my outfits in advance, careful to preserve them, separating them from my other clothing so that I would be sure they were clean on the appointed day. I fell in love with Debbie the way that young girls sometimes fall in love with women who aren't their mothers. With her, I was my most pleasing self. Debbie and her airy voice, the oblique angles from which she looked at her life, the precursive sounds of her bracelets, her clothing, a riot of distinct shapes and bright color, chromatically alive, were the counterbalance to my mother, who was slipping into a depression. That's how it should have been. My mother said after she saw a documentary about whales who are born already, knowing how to swim, drift, float, no diapers, no being stuck, no mind-numbing tasks. Since she and the stick artist had broken up, my mother didn't want to do much, nor could we afford to do much. She prepared food, brown rice, tofu, vegetables, that neither of us was excited to eat, and she spent long periods in her room from day into evening doing I Ching divination with the lights out, the semi-darkness scaring me because it spoke of our strangeness, of no formality or separations. One day, she was feeling better and said she would take us to the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. But first, she wanted to stop at an ATM machine. At the museum, we would walk through the galleries, the room with huge, silly Klaus Ogdensburg sculptures, me lounging on the benches or doing headstands while she looked at the art, her whispering into my ear about the artists, a snack at the cafe at the end. Let's not stop at the ATM, I said. Please. But she stopped anyway, on our way out of town. No money came out of the machine, just a paper slip. She grabbed the slip, walked a few feet, and stopped in the middle of the sidewalk to examine it, stricken. We went home. She did not answer my questions, but told me to be quiet, and she went to her room for the rest of the day. Go play, she said. I'm fine. Leave me alone, honey. Drawing, sorting my clothing, arranging the mice in their cage, doing any ordinary thing at all, seemed risky, like simultaneously being in a little boat out in the middle of a storm. You couldn't take your attention from it, or it would tip when you didn't expect. The next week, Debbie took me over to the house where she lived with her parents in Menlo Park on Hoboot Street. Her mother, blonde and plump, with skin like parchment, was sitting in a breakfast nook wearing an apron, cutting rectangles out of colorful newsprint. The scissors made a pleasing rasp. I asked her what she was cutting. Coupons, she said. I bring them to the store, and then I pay less. She put each rectangle of paper into a partition section of a plastic box. There was a secret compartment inside of Debbie's dresser drawers. A drawer inside a drawer. My family doesn't even know about it, she said, whispering and leaning down so her face was near mine. Inside was a jewelry case, and inside that was a necklace. The fine chain nodded. I wonder if you can undo that with your little fingers, she said. If you can untie it. If you could have it. I sat on her bed and worked the filaments away from one another until each knot released. Do you have a husband? I asked her, as she fastened the necklace behind me. Not yet, she said, but I will. I'll be out walking, and bam, there he'll be, around the next corner. When we get back, my mother was in her painting clothes. Look, she said, gesturing to an almost finished painting. Debbie went over to see it close up. It's amazing, Debbie said. I've never seen more beautiful artwork. Later, Debbie said she wondered why we were poor when my mother had a talent like this. At the very least, she thought, my mother could hawk her artwork on the street. But my mother's artwork didn't make money except for a few illustration projects. We all sat at the table, me on Debbie's lap. At some point, while they were talking, I looked up and said, Your teeth are white. Mom's are yellow. My mother shifted in her chair. She often complained about the way her teeth looked. Debbie has no idea, my mother said after Debbie had left. She's phony and judgmental, and she has no fucking idea. It was true that Debbie judged her. At some point during the visit, Debbie noticed the dishes in the sink and a stain on our wall, left there by previous renters where a drink must have spilled. Over time, the area had darkened like a shadow, and Debbie had noticed it and wrinkled her nose. She just prances in here and takes you away, my mother went on. And you're a delight. And she judges me when it's because of all my work that you're so great. I like her, I said. She's not perfect, you know. She's not happy all the time. She's phony. You should clip coupons, I told her. No way, I said. It's not the kind of person I am, or ever want to be. After that day, my mother no longer waited with me near the garage beside the front of the house by the circle of asphalt in the morning for Debbie's arrival.